I don't know, maybe every 2 or 3 months. So I'm like super into it. So when she was describing you, I was like, I need to talk to her. Can you put me on the phone with her? And she showed me your Instagram page, and I was like, okay, this is really, really cool. So to me, not only are you a viral sensation, but you're also one of the only licensed traditional Chinese medicine practitioners with a background in health economics as well. That's crazy. Like, it's a 2-in-1 situation. I love it. And you also hold a BA, Joint Honors in Politics, Philosophies, Economics from Durham University, UK, and a Master in Public Administration from Columbia University.
Yeah, I'm one of those like Asian overachievers.
I mean, I love where we're going. And a Master of Acupuncture and Herbal Medicine from, as it Alhambra Medical University?
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's a 4-year degree, yeah.
I mean, you're just like, I'm blessed to have this vessel of knowledge in front of me that I can just ask questions to. This is great. It's good to have you here, Jameen.
I'm so honored to be here, and thank you so much.
Yes, for sure. So first, let's talk about how you got to Austin. Like, why are you in Austin and where you're from?
I got to Austin, right? Like, oh, you just magically get diabetes, right? Like, it doesn't happen like that. It's a long process. Your behaviors and prevention, this is all key. And I realized like, oh, I grew up in Chinese medicine. You know, I grew up in my father's clinic. This is the kind of things he treats chronic disorders. This is the kind of things he treats so often. So when I came back to the US, we landed in LA, I was like, you know what? I've done all there is to do, interesting, you know, interest-wise in economics. I'm gonna retrain for 4 years in Chinese medicine. And that's how I'm going to carry on, I guess, in my dad's mind, the family heritage, but in my mind, and do it very differently. So, yeah, I'm like definitely no spring chicken when I started doing this. I was already in my 30s. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So you really just followed your intuition with it.
That and a bit of anger, or maybe a lot of it. I think like I am definitely the very New Yorker, you know, I'm really a true New Yorker in a sense that I'm very blunt,
right.
Which is like, and coupled with the fact I'm an economist, so I'm like one of those people who has to be honest and right all the time. Mm-hmm. And I realized that when I came back to LA, there were so much of cultural appropriation of Chinese medicine, starting with the gua sha trend when the skincare industry just picked it up. And like, oh, there's this thing we discovered. It's been around for 3,000 years in Chinese medicine. Like, where is the credit to us, right?
Right.
And there was so much of that, and I got really angry. Then I realized I had no right to be angry because I'm not a practitioner. Who are you to say that you know more than these people? Although I did, because I grew up listening to all this and seeing how my parents practiced. So I was like, you know what? I need to be part of this, to criticize people, to do it my way, to do it in my mind, the right way.
Right.
So that's how I started. So a little dose of anger.
Right.
Yeah, helped move things along. Yeah.
It seems like, too, you were like, okay, if I'm going to be angry, I need information to fire back at people so that I can have these conversations.
Exactly. I mean, like, you have to be, I think that's one of the biggest problems for a lot of people. When you say, like, your culture is being appropriated, right? Like, okay, so other than the fact that you're racially Asian, like, how do you prove you know this better than other people? You have to do this traditional field or better, you know, to prove that you know it better. You have to be not part of the system, but at least you have to be part of it to change it. I don't know. Like, that's what I thought, at least. So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started hearing about Chinese medicine and how you could heal yourself and things of that nature, I was taken aback. And then you share it with your mother, who is, you know, she's been dealing with Western medicine her entire life and my entire life.
Yeah.
Caught up in like a different type of understanding of how it goes. You go to the doctor, they give you medicine, you have to pay money for the medicine.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. And then you depend on this medicine for the most part, for some things, right? To the point to where you have to take it every day or the situation will come back, whatever the case may be. Yeah. So when I started hearing that you can actually be healed, I'm like, well, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about one group of people, do they just care about the money? And then the other person is trying to actually heal? Or like, how does that measure up? And I feel like when I had my first appointment with a Chinese medicine doctor, he looked at me and he's like, let me look at your nail beds. Let me look at your tongue. it was no book there or anything. He was like, based on what I see going on, you have a vitamin D deficiency and, you know, you're anemic possibly and all of the things. And it was like, well, now I have some herbs that I want to give you so that we can heal you in this way. Not I'm going to give you this and you're going to continue to come back to me for 30 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I think about Chinese medicine, I think about the benefits. And it's really scary to me that a lot of people don't even know about it or they're not informed about the benefits of Chinese medicine. I
think it's interesting. I mean, Mill and I were talking about it today. I think part of it is gatekeeping, right? Part of it is also like the Chinese medicine community, the acupuncture community. By the way, for anybody who is listening and don't know, acupuncture is the physical therapy part of Chinese medicine. It's only in the United States of America, the license is called License of Acupuncture. In other countries, it's called License of Chinese Medicine. So it's the same thing, essentially.
Wow.
But because of this subtle difference, in many states, a lot of the acupuncturists have not been trained in herbs because it's not needed, right? So in this country, people mainly focus on the needling part, the physical therapy part. I think it is a completely different concept. The medicine, like the Chinese medicine field, has been burned before. If you look at the history, there, you know, in the early days in California when I started doing it, they actually taught a bunch of like white men. I believe they were students from UCLA, if I remember it correctly. Don't quote me on this. Where they became the regulation builder, not the masters themselves. And we have to ask ourselves why, right? There is a lot of racism involved. There is a lot of like, this is my country and you're a foreigner, that kind of thing. So the masters became the rule followers. And then when the students themselves became, we're the board, and this is the regulatory thing. And so the industry became very, I think that a lot of Asians, like, you know, Koreans and Chinese and Japanese who practices medicine become very scared of sharing because they got burned before. So they're like, it's not in our interest to be open about it. And, you know, and frankly, there's a lot of cultural appropriation. So people don't want to talk and they don't want to speak up. And the medicine itself, other than the needling part, is very complex to make sense. You know, in my early days of being on social media, it was really difficult to talk about something really complex in under 60 seconds. I mean, now I can do it, but in the past, it's like I have to do 20 takes because it's such a nuanced thing, right? It's just like every individual, you and I, like one cannot just say, oh, Miles is this person, and I give you 1 minute, you're talk about all her qualities. Your uniqueness is way above the 60 seconds people allocate to you. And I think because of language barrier, the culture barrier, and all of that, and the complex history, you know, there is a lot of gatekeeping for that. And the community also is, but I think now it's changing. A lot of practitioners are coming forward and are really like, talking about it more openly. So patients themselves also understand like how this benefit me, you know, to really further build trust. So
what do you think the misconceptions of Chinese medicine are?
My biggest pet peeve as an economist is whenever people say, oh, Chinese medicine is so pseudoscience. The definition of science, people, is that it's based on high quality data. An ancient medicine that has been around for 3,000 years, and I see this in my dad's clinic and my father's friends who are also practitioners their clinic, they see on average 30 to 40 patients a day. And they see usually everybody in the family unit, right? And then they keep seeing these people from when they're a kid to when they're adults. And you really, because Chinese medicine is all about your evolving health issues, and we tweak the formula every single time. That is the definition of longitudinal data in health economics. And that is the best possible high quality data you can get. So if you have high quality data like that, why would you say it's pseudoscience? It's not. You know?
That's insane.
So for anybody who says it's pseudoscience, I think you need to Google and educate yourself on the definition of what science is and really broaden your mind. It really annoys me when people say that. I'm like,
it would annoy me too, because you're healing people every day, so you see the data. The data is in your face every single day.
Right. And when you ask patients, and they would say, oh yeah, but you give each person a different formula.
You should.
Right. And in so many ways, You know, the only difference is that if a lot of people call science, right?
Right.
I'm a huge believer of science. I mean, I'm an economist and we do a lot of research. The definition of science is a limited definition in my mind, how people define it. So Chinese and Koreans are famous for being very fussy. We're very difficult people. We like to get our money's worth. So if you think this ancient thing, if it doesn't work, it will still survive after 3,000 years, I mean, our own people will burn it already. There is a reason why it's still here, so.
No, there's a huge reason why it's still here, for sure. If someone has never been to a Chinese medicine doctor, what's the best way to prepare them for the visit? Or what should they know?
Prepare for your mind to be blown.
Yeah.
So for me, for example, I do one-on-one tongue reading. Mm-hmm. So I did Simone Biles' tongue yesterday.
Yes.
And the queen herself personally commented on how dead right I am in under like my under 60 seconds video. Prepare for your mind to be blown, and I promise you, I did not install a drone in your head. This is 3,000 years of wisdom, guys. So, you know, you learn this kind of thing. Like in California, it takes 4 years even just to graduate a degree, and you still have to take like a 5-hour-long like license exam. People really worked really hard to get qualified. So just be open-minded and prepare for your world to be turned upside down in a good way.
That's exactly what happened. I was like, I'm never going to like whatever was our regular Western medicine doctors, because I was like, for labs maybe, but that's it. Because I want that one-on-one tailor-made appointment for me that's based on what's going on in my body. And since you started talking about it, tongue readings, let's get into it. How can a person be diagnosed based on a tongue reading? Or what information can one get from a tongue reading?
So tongue reading is really funny. It's certainly one of the 4, let me do the math right. It's one of the 4 mechanisms we use to diagnose someone. It's my favorite because everyone has a tongue, right? Mm-hmm. And I apologize to anybody who doesn't have a tongue, but you know, everyone has a tongue. So if you have one Chinese medicine practitioner, person A vis-a-vis person B, tongue reading is more objective. We might have our disagreement, but overall, I would say like 80% we would agree on the same thing. The way I do it is a little bit different because I like to mind read, but that's a separate thing. But like most of the time you agree. When it comes to other diagnosis, for example, the pulse diagnosis, it's more subjective.
Okay.
So 2 practitioners might have completely different idea.
Right.
I like objective method. So, and also because I'm an economist who studies like health data, I do this particular way of initial consultation where like 30% of the questions are relevant in the psychology, like in the mental health space, because mental health and physical health are intertwined in Chinese medicine. Mm-hmm. So those 2 tools are enough for me to diagnose someone and for me to know how to write a customized herbal formula, which is, what we do.
Mind blown. Mind blown. So when I was in my appointment, of course, he did the tongue reading, and I didn't know what it was for because, you know, when you go to your physician that's not in Chinese medicine, they look at your tongue too, but it's quick. It's like, that's it. That's over. You know what I mean? And he was like, no, I'm really looking, I'm assessing what's going on. Yeah. And I remember after he told me, he said I had a qi deficiency.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. He said I had a qi deficiency. So when I got home, I immediately Googled, like, first of all, why have I never heard of this? And once he told me that, he was able to tell me, you have a qi deficiency, so that means you're low iron, possibly. You might be more fatigued. You might be tired during the day. Little things like that my doctor had told me before, but they didn't tell me where the deficiency really was.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm going to put you on an iron supplement. You come back every couple of months, and then we'll go from there. Yeah. And my numbers never really improved over time. Yeah. And there was no alternative plan other than going to possibly see a hematologist and get iron infusions. Yeah. And every time, as a woman, every time your cycle comes back around, guess what happens? Then your blood goes back down again. So there was no fix there. And I started to realize, like, after I went to go see him, I was like, throughout my life going to a doctor as a Black woman, you start hearing the things like, well, most Black women are anemic, or most Black women have fibroids, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm Black and I get that, but is there an answer? Is there a solution to this thing or not?
It's interesting you say that, because I see a lot of Black women as my patients, and most are entrepreneurs. You guys get the double whammy. You get anemia piece, and then you get excessive bleeding during period piece. You're like basically bleeding out.
Yeah.
And then everyone will then have dryness everywhere, right? And then a lot of people start showing fatigue signs, you're definitely anemic. The Qi deficiency is like, there is a reason for that. And usually in my clinical experience, is usually for Black women is usually due to digestive deficiency. That's the root cause.
So it's like absorption or no?
Is the fact that if you imagine your digestion as a blender, the blender is supposed to be sharp, right? And then also it's supposed to produce heat. When you use like a Vitamix or something.
Right. Yeah.
Your blender is neither producing the heat nor is sharp. So that's why a lot of Black women will also have like bloating. Like every single time you get your period and people are like, I'm gaining like 5 pounds. Where did this come from? And then when your period
are you talking
over,
just to me? I feel like this is for me.
I'm like, this usually happens where people are like, are you just like mind reading me? I promise you it's not. It is, so weight is a problem.
Right.
But it's on and off. You're like, how did I just gain 5 pounds? And now I don't have the 5 pounds.
Right.
And then related to that, and this is why I get mad, is that if you look at the data, they're like, oh, Black women are at least 4 times more likely than their white counterpart to get anemia. You're disproportionately affected by PCOS. And then when it comes to endometriosis, it's like, oh, they're a lot less likely to be diagnosed as endometriosis, but that is a data diagnosis problem. It doesn't mean Black women are less likely to have endometriosis. It's because endometriosis is incredibly complex to actually get a diagnosis for. You gotta have a lot of funds, you gotta have a lot of resources to get it diagnosed. And then what is gonna be the end result if you get diagnosed with, like you said, anemia or like endometriosis or PCOS, right? Endometriosis, if it's bad enough, they're going to recommend hysterectomy.
Right.
What is the statistics for Black women who have gone under hysterectomy in the 2000s? Crazy high.
Crazy high. I know at least 3 in my life that have had a hysterectomy. And they're young too. Some people are like, well, the doctor basically, I've been told before, like, hey, do you want kids? Because if not, we'll just take it out. It's fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, hold on. You're taking my whole, because I'm having a small issue, like, like your anemia, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, it's very, but that is the culture almost in America, right? It's very absolute. Oh, you have this excessive bleeding, so let's just cut that. Like now you have that, and maybe that would just stop.
Right.
Yeah, but you will also start having menopausal problems.
Yeah.
Like maybe you don't want that, and maybe it was set off a lot of things earlier. Yeah. I think the amount of education is just not there.
Right.
For example, like when I see Black men, a lot of issues what they have. One is hair fall, and the other thing is they must take a nap in the afternoon. This especially applies to athletes. Male athletes, where like 1 o'clock rolls around, they have to nap for 3 hours.
Why is that?
It's interesting because for women, you're more affected by the blood. We usually say in Chinese medicine, women is made of blood, man is made of qi. What is qi? Basically your energy source, right? When you steam something, that's your qi. You see it like floating.
Right.
And the root problem is the same. For some reason, I personally believe is generational trauma and hard work and history of slavery.
Right.
That Black people have, not everybody, but at least among the patients I see, somehow have a weaker digestion. That could be due to, behaviors like, diet, could be due to like a lot of factors.
Right.
But that is actually the root cause for why you would feel the need to nap, for example, for men, and for women is more like a chronic fatigue, low grade of anxiety all the time, and poor quality of sleep. And that's,
I wonder what our diet was before slavery when we were in Africa, and then how it changed once we were in slavery because we got scraps.
Yeah.
Or things that were less appealing for everyone else to be eating. And then now some of us still have some of those same habits. We're still eating the same types of food that we had then, but now we get to go to the grocery store and buy them. We're not changing our diets, much. And it's like, oh, well, Black people typically have high blood pressure. Well, if we're all eating similar foods, then
but
that makes sense.
The thing about blood pressure itself is like there are many different root causes for blood pressure. One thing can be resentment and high stress. If you're on constant stress, if you're constantly resentful because there is so much injustice, you will have high blood pressure. Like there is no doubt about it. Could weight and combined with anemia also give you high blood pressure? Yeah, in Chinese medicine, yeah. But you know, the funny thing is also like, and I always feel so strongly about this. Whenever people ask me like, what is good to eat? Don't eat what, like, people say like, eat salad all the time. It will help you with weight. It doesn't. Any women who is watching this, right? If you're one of those who get like bloating, like every month, you bloat whatever, no matter what you eat, having salad is only going to make your bloating there. It's going to be your best friend.
What?
You're not supposed to eat all that raw greens, leafy greens.
Oh my goodness.
Think about what your ancestors eat, right? Like when I lived in Ghana, my favorite food was red and red. Is beans, cooked beans. I don't hear anybody having a bloat problem back there.
Yeah.
Nobody has a bloating problem.
No.
Because it's cooked. It's been cooked. And then like the most important thing is also like modern people, very few people will say, oh, I eat my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You never eat at the same time. You overwork, and then at night you go to sleep when it's the time to sleep. You know, these kinds of things matters. And the more stress you get, the more low-grade anxiety you get, the worse your symptoms tend to be. I'm sure you notice it at the same time. Like, you know, the new statistics is like, more women, especially Black women, are being diagnosed with ADHD. I said this to Simone, you know.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to say to you.
Yeah.
That's me thinking I have ADHD all the time because my red blood cells are low and I'm borderline anemic all the time. I'm always teetering on the line. And I'm like, why can't I ever focus? And my friends are like, no, you don't have ADHD. We don't think you have it. You're very determined, da-da-da. And I'm like, but sometimes I can't make a decision on what I want to do. I felt overwhelmed. And the brain cannot settle on anything.
You know, let me give you an analogy, Miles.
Okay.
If you drive a car, you know your car is low on gas. Are you going to get anxious? You know, you're driving in the middle of nowhere. You're going to get anxious. You don't know when you're going to get a refill.
To the gas station,
That's essentially your body right now with the anemia. You don't have enough of blood in your body. And the thing between the blood and qi as in, let's just oversimplify it and call it energy. Any of the Chinese medicine people, don't kill me for that. I'm trying to make sense. So they're like siblings. Well, yeah, they're like siblings. If you're low on blood, most of the time you're low on qi. You don't have the energy. Sometimes you're high on blood, you don't have enough of qi. It's the same thing. So you have to be balanced on both. And the thing about driving the car is like, if you're anemic, you know, it's like driving a half-filled car and you're like, I'm panicking. Yeah, obviously. You have a lot of dreams. You have a lot of things to do. You know you don't have enough of gas. And then you don't know when you're going to get a refill or you're ever going to get a refill. Obviously, you have low-grade energy. And then what happens, I don't know, you don't need to tell us that on podcast, but you probably wake up in the middle of the night and sometimes have problem with sleeping. Because, and you will have that low-grade anxiety because like we say in Chinese medicine, when you don't have enough of blood, there is nothing nourishing the heart. And it's the heart that is in charge of your consciousness. So when that is deficient, you're going to feel restless and almost helpless because it's like, you know, oh, I'm low on gas, but I don't know when I'm going to get a refill. So.
You just diagnosed me right there.
Without seeing your tongue. Now I feel weird.
Without even seeing my tongue. No, that's exactly how I feel. And one of my doctors was like, if you got into a car accident, you have like half as much blood as your body than most people. So he was just like, you wouldn't have enough blood to survive that. Because it's how low it is. But it's like, it teeters. It goes back and forth all the time.
And you know, the thing is, that's funny. One of the biggest myths I hear that's spreading around online now is now there is a new group of people. I think it's the same group of people who used to tell people to only eat vegan food. Now they've changed. Now they're saying eat grass-fed beef. Oh, yeah. It's the same group of people.
I've heard that.
Right? And then so if you're iron deficient, they were saying, oh, girl, you just need to eat some like beef organ. Okay, don't do that. First off, it's like, yeah. And second of all, here's the thing. Let's go back to my blender's theory.
Okay.
If your blender is rusty, it generates no heat.
Right.
You think you put a lot of like beef organ or like beef, a huge steak there is going to blend? No, it's not.
It's not going to blend.
So this is the reason why people who are anemic or people who have serious digestive problem, when they temporarily do intermittent fasting, they actually feel a little bit better.
Yes.
That's not a long-term solution, but short-term it works because,
Right.
I mean, if your blender is not working anyways, like if you don't know what to do, don't put much in it.
Right.
That's
and I
the
had
theory.
way more energy when I was doing that, like a low carb, high carb diet kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not going to last you for the long term.
Right.
Because you still need that blood. You still need that chi to support whatever ambition you have. So what happens, I see a lot, is that a lot of Black women will be the most ambitious, and often they feel that they are unable to carry out and fulfill all their ambitions because they are so damn tired all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I often tell people, like, first off, stop being so hard on yourself. It's not you.
Right.
Like, was this kind of like BloodCon? Like, I mean, I would be just sitting at home reading my novels all the time, you know? Like, so it's not you. And don't just run to the ADHD pills. That's what I said to Simone, because ADHD is about focus.
Right.
If you think about you, women who have ADHD symptoms also have a bunch of other symptoms. Your fatigue, your menstruation. A lot of Black women also have constipation. That's also due to anemia. And dryness and a bunch of other symptoms. So don't feel like, oh my God, ADHD pills is going to solve my problem. It's not going to.
Right. They need to see you.
Come.
I need to see you. What is the missing piece that you find for most people? Can you share that, or?
Missing piece in what sense?
Like when we talk about Black women and struggling with anemia and and being fatigued and being tired and having all the goals, because like you said, Chinese medicine it's a blend of mental and body, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, like what typically is the missing piece, or is it always different for each person when it comes to the blood being low?
It's not exactly the same for everybody, but what I call on every single Black woman to do is talk to your grandma, talk to your mom.
Okay.
You're gonna be surprised at how much similarity you all share.
Right.
So I have a full family of beautiful Black women as my patients.
Okay.
The grandma is my patient, the mom is my patient, the daughter is my patient.
Okay.
The daughter had on the surface they seem to have completely different diagnosis. The daughter had COVID 6 times, she had long COVID. The mother just had this like menstrual bloating situation, low fatigue, and then the grandma had arthritis. On the surface, they're all different.
Right.
The root is the same.
What?
The root is the same. This is why it's interesting. If you're ever wondering like, oh my God, I'm scared of menopause, how my menopause is going to look like, ask your mom.
Yeah.
Likely is going to be very similar. And the thing is, this is what Chinese medicine excel at. It's the data. You're from the same genetics. And for women in particular, there is a lot of similarity in that. So like when people say like, but like on the surface, they all have different things. And the younger daughter who has long COVID, she didn't have like, she doesn't have anemia. That's true. Anemia is a disorder in Chinese medicine, often due to a deficient digestive system. She has a deficient digestive system. It doesn't always mean it's going to trigger anemia. In her case, it triggered PCOS. And after working with me for 3 months, she no longer has PCOS. She has period every single month.
We need to all go see her. Everybody. We need to line up. Seriously.
But like that's my point. And her mom is like, her mom is in her 50s and she's menopausal.
Right.
On the surface, it's completely different. She has anemia, right? And she's a vegan. And she has the bloat every single time. It's still digestive deficiency.
So the same thing.
This is the thing. I think this is why the Eastern culture and the Western culture is so different. It's like the Eastern culture, especially with something so nuanced like Chinese medicine, is that there isn't one answer for it. Is whenever I see a patient, they're like, so I learned from your reel, am I just having like liver qi stagnation, AKA stress entered your body, you're just like filling off? I'm like, well, there's also other things, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because the thing we need to think like, Miles, you have anemia. A lot of people will then just say, oh, Black women, like having anemia, like that's common, right? You're never defined by what you have. You're so much more than that. And to say then, oh, you have anemia, you all go on iron tablet. I mean, like you said, if iron tablet has really worked for everyone, we wouldn't be hearing about Black women and anemia.
Right. Exactly.
And how many women I know, Black women, who had to get the transfusion once every few months. And then like, it only becomes more frequent.
Right.
And it doesn't work.
Yep.
A ton. And you know what's the funny thing? I got a email from a Black woman patient of mine, and she's like, my blood sugar is down. It's down significantly for the first time in years. And I worked with her for 3 months. And people would be like, yeah, but like, why? Because the spleen, which is not the same as the Western medicine spleen,
right,
that is in charge of digestion, that's responsible for producing blood in your body, and also for sending qi all through your body, aka you have like energy. Because I know if you work out, you have soreness for days. Yeah, you don't need to tell me. I know that. That's like part of the symptom.
Right.
And you know, the funny thing is, the associating taste to the spleen is sweet. This is why most Black women crave sweets, especially before period.
Oh my God.
Because think about it.
I love animal crackers, the white and pink ones with the sprinkles. I have to have
You're
them.
much better than my patient who loves like Germany imported Haribo. But I mean, like, that's the point. You can't control it. You have to have it.
I want it. And it's like, why?
Because think about it. When your digestive system has one job to do, is rusty, is old, is unhappy, and then is like, ugh, I don't want to do another job. My only job now is to produce blood, aka your period. And then you're telling me that I have to keep you happy, keep you energetic, like, you know, send blood to your brain, make you like skin like look great. I can't do that. So what does it do? It's like, I need more stuff. It's like, it's almost like he's on strike and he's like, he or she or they are blackmailing you. They're like, I need more sweets. Because that's your, whenever the stronger your sweet craving is, the more severe your digestive deficiency is. And this is the reason why every single Black person in their late 30s, you go check your blood. Half of the people, even when you're a perfect runners, I'm talking about a man also, they will say you're pre-diabetic. And then you're like, wait a second. And then you ask your parents, they're like, yeah, they told me the same at the same time.
No, you're right.
Because this is all associated.
Yeah.
The weaker your digestion is, the more sweets you want. And that's why when I fixed up this person's, you know, digestive system, although on the surface her symptom is perimenopausal symptoms, her blood sugar is down.
Wow.
Because your body will do a better job in absorbing whatever you have, rather than like just, you know, doing the bad stuff.
You were talking earlier about the certain body part being on strike.
Yeah.
Like saying like, I'm not going to do any work.
Yeah.
How do you stop that person from going on strike?
I think the most important thing, and I'm really an advocate for people to help themselves first. Only come to me if you can't help yourself. Is to stop stressing. And know there are certain people who are just gonna be stuck in their ways, and it's not worth you wasting your energy on them. The reason I say that is because the liver, which in Chinese medicine is the organ that soothes negative emotions, it's like a bully. A will bully among the organs, the weakest one. The weakest one is always the spleen. So this is why you see people when they eat and they're really stressed, what happened? They start saying, oh my God, I'm having hiccups, or I'm going to barf. They're like vomiting. They're like, I have heartburn.
Yeah, acid reflux, whatever.
Your acid reflux, like all this like crazy things, right? It's because you are stressed. You're like intensely stressed, and Chinese medicine has known for 3,000 years, like your emotion has every single thing to do with your health. And Western medicine is just starting to talk about it this year.
Right.
I mean, this is the time for me to be so proud of being Chinese. We're really old, guys. Because we're really old. You know, China has been around for so long. That is a lot of people who has used the Chinese medicine. I mean, the emperor back in the days, they have a whole, like, just like a Chinese medicine hospital just for them. And they're like ladies.
That's so crazy when you talk about, you know, just not being stressed out.
Yeah.
Because I think that also has a lot to do with the way you look as well.
Yeah.
Like you run into classmates from, you know, when you were in high school and you see them and you're like, we look completely different. Why is that? It was one of us more stressed out versus the other. Could have had similar lives, but different stressors. So what do you think about that? Like when you see people and they look older, than other people that it's like the young thing. It's like, oh, I got good genetics. But sometimes I feel like it has a lot to do with, how happy are you at life, with life?
It is interesting because the liver, again, does many things. One of the many things it does is it detoxes. We all know that, right? Although I hate that word. And it also is responsible for blood circulation. Because for women, for example, right? A lot of women have like debilitating PMS. All the men, if your girlfriend bullies you because they say, oh, I have PMS, like you should send them to me because that's not normal. But like the thing is also like, because the liver stores the blood in Chinese medicine. So what happens is that when you're menstruating, like you're kind of like, the liver is also working at the same time. If the blood doesn't come out easily, if it's angry, it's like, I'm like hating you right now, you're going to get PMS. It's called liver qi stagnation. And the funny thing is, if your blood doesn't flow as well, if your liver is angry, if you're stressed, your liver, therefore, doesn't work as well, it doesn't like, flow the blood as happily as it could, you look older. This is why people who drink will always look older than people who don't drink. It's because, what happens when you drink? Most of the time people are unhappy, right? And then you're like, I need to go have a drink. You're then that is your liver sending false signal to say like, I am so stagnant. I need you to give me extra energy so I'm not so stagnant. So then what do? Your body's like, oh, I need quick energy source. What is the quick energy source? Sugar, booze, or one night stand, but we forgot a third option. So like, the thing is, this is when you make like really terrible choices in life.
Yeah.
And then what happens when you go drink? You go drink, and usually this time, like nobody just like drinks beer. I mean, the more angry you are, you drink like liquor, right?
Yeah.
High alcohol content. Then what happens? Who feels good after drinking? No one.
Nobody.
And then the older you are, we all hear this, oh, in my 20s, my hangover is never as bad. Now in my 30s, I'm just
it's crazy, yeah.
It's crazy. Because liver has a relationship, everything is linked. Liver has a relationship with your digestion. You, due to stress, did this bad thing, overwhelms the liver. Liver has a hot temper, doesn't want to do the job anymore. So you dump everything on the digestion. Then what happens? You have hangover. And this is why you see people who drink all the time, the premature aging catch up with them the most. And in fact, for men, I believe the newest research that came out, shocking percentage of men have poor quality semen and sperm.
Because of drinking?
This has a lot to do with drinking and smoking and stress and not sleeping. So when people say like, oh, your emotion has nothing to do with your health, like,
it has everything to do with it.
It has everything to do with it. Yeah, it's the beginning of all bad things.
Oh my goodness. I want to switch gears just a little bit because you specialize in entrepreneurs' health, which I love because ironically, a lot of my friends that are entrepreneurs and people that I know, don't be mad at me, but they don't always take care of themselves because they're so busy. They have kids. They are the only worker for their thing. They don't have a team. There's a lot of stress involved. So, I might talk to a friend and it'll be 8 o'clock at night and I'll be like, have you had any food today? No, I haven't had my first meal yet.
Yeah.
Well, why not? Well, I just had a really busy day.
Yeah.
So why did you choose to specialize with this unique group of people? Yeah.
I want us, it's funny you say that about entrepreneurs. In particular, it hits people differently. When you're an entrepreneur, it's almost like you feel every minute of your life you should be put into work.
Right.
Better you get, venture capital money for a startup or whatever, like you all feel like, oh my God, I must like do this until the end. I always say this because I am a economist that studies longevity data. You don't want to be burned out.
Yeah.
If you want your business to be here, you want a legacy. You want a name for yourself.
And you want to be here.
You want to be here. You don't want to have like, I think we all heard about I can't remember which entrepreneur who died from a sudden heart attack. Because a lot of entrepreneurs have similar symptoms.
Right.
Heart palpitation, poor sleep, no food, poor appetite, terrible digestion, menstruation, don't even think about it. And most of them, have no libido, and generally overwhelmingly not happy.
Yeah.
You're working for yourself, so why are you not happy?
Where's the balance?
They cannot achieve the balance. But here I am, because I work with so many entrepreneurs, it's the people who has to perform. I am there to help you to perform the best you can, or maybe even better. I mean, one of my patients said, like, you made me 20.0.
Yeah.
Because every single month at follow-up, I tweak your formula. You're an evolving human being. Your need every single time is different. Let's think about this. The first month, you didn't have anything stressful. The second month, you got 70 million as like a venture capital money. And now you really have to perform. That gives you a lot of stress. Right. That impacts your health negatively, perhaps. You probably have not been sleeping. How can you, as a human being, maximize your potential while at the same time not being burned out? I am that person for you. And this is why it's the highest form of customization. Like every single time when I do an initial consultation with people, I give people a 16-page nutrition and lifestyle plan that's specifically tailored for you and your health condition. Why? I mean, I care. But the most important thing is, like, it matters. You should have every single tool at your disposal so you can maximize your health potential. So your business can be here, not just for 2 years,
right,
but forever.
Yeah.
And you can be here for your kids, not like, oh, I'm burnt out after 3 years and now I must sell my business. I mean, I had a patient who had something so good going on, she had to sell it before she came to see me because she was just burnt out and she was so sick. You don't want to get to that.
No, you don't want to get to that point. And it's crazy because, you know, when you think of entrepreneurship, you think of freedom, right?
Yeah.
You think of no one telling you what you have to do.
Yeah.
It's something that you want to do.
Yeah.
And people get into that space of, like you said, it's like every moment of the day is dedicated to this empire that I'm building, but then you neglect your empire. You know, like your actual vessel, which you only get one, you know, during this lifetime anyway. So,
and you know, the funny thing about entrepreneurs is, like, we're expected to be creative all the time.
All
we're
the
being
time.
pulled to all directions, right? Which entrepreneur does not have brain fog? Which entrepreneur can say, like, I have perfect focus. My memory is amazing.
Impeccable. Yeah.
Yeah, I can just focus. I can work anytime I want, right? No, dude, you don't even sleep. So, like, you have to think, me as an economist, like, I have to think in terms of productivity. What is the best way to get you the best productivity so you can thrive at your business and ultimately make more money? I mean, that's what a lot of my patients will say. They're like, well, before I came to see you, was one of my patients got long COVID, and she was like, I just couldn't because I'm so exhausted all the time. Now I can do more and I ultimately make more money because you're healthier.
Yeah.
You know, you won't be like, oh, I can't do this. Sorry, I don't feel good.
Right. Yeah. Wow, I can sit here all day. Okay, what's your relationship with social media? Because you do have a large following. You have like well over 240,000 followers. I think the last time I checked was like 244. I don't want to cut out your fourth, the extra. But that's a ton of people. So what's your relationship with it? Is it something that you just have to do every day? Do you schedule your post?
I have Milu to thank for that. My amazing person who package everything, but I'm the technical know-how.
Okay.
So I give the content, but she does her magical things, so it comes out to the world. You know, I always call myself an introvert with an extrovert shell, because it's true. I much prefer to stay at home, like a lot of the times. But I love social media because that's when you reach a wider audience. When I started, you know, when I decided to enroll in Chinese medicine school, I told my dad, I said, you know, this ancient like business model you all have, like you're bound to your clinic and you have as many patients as possible and you don't leave. I said, that's not what I want. I want this medicine to be sustainable. I want it to be able to reach to more people who need people from other communities. I mean, Chinese and Koreans and Japanese, we've been having it for a long time. And social media helps with that.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, you know, we all know about social media comes with I had my own learning curve. I went from like writing all pass for newspaper to like talking about celebrity tongue, Beyonce's tongue in under 60 seconds is like a very scary thing. But, you know, I love it now.
Yeah.
Because I show up exactly the way I am.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the most important thing. If you can be your authentic self, then and it doesn't affect the way you see yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's big. But thank you for sharing. What are your best practices for social?
My best practices?
Yeah, like anything that you think like, okay, this has worked for me.
I think using like celebrity tongue as an example, right?
Okay.
That was in early days how I decided. And for me personally, I think the struggle for Chinese medicine is really like you treat everything. That is unbelievable in a Western medicine kind of like mindset, right?
For sure.
So how do you get something so comprehensive and make it digestible to people? And I was like, that meal was like, everyone has a tongue. And then there are the celebrities. Celebrities have tongue. We're gonna go with celebrity tongues. That was, you have to find an entry point.
Right.
It's the same with my Asian market series now. Like, I don't think everyone needs to come to see me. Like, if you don't have if you're not like sick or have a Western medicine diagnosis or you don't have long COVID or whatever, don't come to see me. But everyone could do their own thing to help themselves feel better. And I think that's really has always been the backbone of Chinese medicine, which is to give everyone the tools so you can learn. And I, for one, feel like it's enough for the community to gatekeep. So I'm trying to teach as much as possible in that department. And that's when we have the Asian supermarket series, and it kind of went bonkers from there. So I think Whittier mushroom producers are probably benefiting a lot from it because everybody is going to buy Whittier mushrooms for hair fall problems, but yeah.
You have so much going on. How do you stay grounded? How do you stay tuned and tapped into your source?
I think from a long time ago, I decided seeking balance is a fruitless pursuit. As a mother, as an entrepreneur, and you do like you have to do everything and still have to have space for yourself, I take one day at a time. And I am always very strict about certain routines I have. Like, for example, my 5 to 7 a.m., I do a walk. And then I do another walk at night. And I always reserve at least an hour to read before I go to bed. I like doing things sometimes. We call the Taoist the principle of Wu Wei, which is doing nothing productive on purpose. So, for example, I love to watch, like, Love is Blind, UK. Like, specifically UK. All the international Love is Blind.
We don't care about all of that.
Yeah, I don't care about the American ones. Only care about the foreign ones. And you're not doing anything with your brain. You're resting. You're judging other people. It's relaxing. Why don't you do that? It's like sitting at a coffee shop in New York. You're just like looking at everyone walking by. You're like, that dress doesn't work. And that's how I rest my brain. And I'm very protective of that.
Yeah. You have to be. Any productivity tips, like, so the opposite of relaxing, things that help you keep with your schedule, or things that help you, execute your day-to-day duties, or things that you have to get done?
I think two big ones for me. One is I personally do my exercise early in the morning.
Okay.
That is a quick walk or rowing. I do it anytime for like 40 minutes or an hour, from anytime from 5 a.m. to like 7 a.m. I usually do mine at like 5:45. And that is great for people who wake up without an appetite.
Okay.
I know you wake up without an appetite.
You just called it. Yes, that's right. She's just calling me out the whole interview.
Yeah, if you don't have an appetite, that's a key sign of people with deficient digestive system. And also if you have cold feet in the winter, if you're really sensitive to the cold.
I have the heat on year round.
Exactly.
I have a space heater.
So what you need to do is you need to have to generate heat from somewhere.
Right.
Winter is coming, y'all. Like, you don't want White Walkers to get you. Like, no, we don't want that. What you want is to generate heat somehow, either through exercise or eating warm cooked food, and this way in particular, I like to do it from 5 to 7 a.m. in the morning, because that's the time when the most yang qi is generated. Yang qi, immunity, warms.
Okay.
Right? That's where the large intestine channel travels. So you want, at this specific time, you do your walks, you activate yourself, you will feel easier to wake up in the morning. And obviously, people are like, it's not difficult. It's not hard for me to wake up in the morning. I know it's hard for you to wake up in the morning. But the thing is, once you force yourself, you're disciplined enough, you can get this happening, you're always going to wake up at that time. And you're always going to do the exercise at that time. And then you will feel a lot more awake and you will have a better appetite. Because it's almost like you're tuning, you're sharpening that blender, you know, in time for your body to say, hey, it's time for breakfast.
That's hilarious that you say that, because I just told somebody the other day, I was like, when I wake up early and work out, I feel so much better about my day. It's like I have so much more energy.
Yeah. So for all the people who are exercising at night after work, that might influence your sleep. You might get too pumped up and you don't sleep as well.
Right.
Do it in the morning.
Yeah.
Or like if you want to do something after dinner, which is like every old Asian person, including myself, favorite sport is you do a quick walk or some form of exercise after your dinner. The reason is because you're supposed to eat the smallest meal at dinner.
And sometimes we do it the opposite.
You do the opposite. So what happens? You feel bloated all the time.
Right.
You don't eat breakfast in time for lunch. You're like, I'm famished. And you eat a big thing. Then what happens? You feel sleepy in the afternoon, don't you? Then you're down your coffee. At night, you're hungry again. And then you spend the whole night feeling bloated. And what happens when you're bloated? You don't sleep well.
No, and you don't look good in a dress.
Exactly. It's like a vicious circle.
Vicious cycle.
Yeah. And then like, you know, at night when you're just like tossing and turning. All the people who are tossing and turning, I'm like, y'all don't have good digestive health. We have a saying in Chinese medicine, if your digestive health is poor, you don't sleep well. This is why whenever people say like, I have a sleep problem, but that's the only problem I have. I'm like, no, that's not true.
That's your digestive system.
It's most likely your digestive system. Never underestimate your digestive system.
Oh my goodness. Life-changing book and why?
Life-changing what?
Book and why?
Okay, so here I am turning on my Chinese medicine practitioner hat. I Ching.
Okay.
It's called Book of Changes. It is the book that is so full of wisdom, evolving wisdom, for anybody who want to understand the Eastern philosophy. And every single Chinese medicine practitioner, if they're high level enough, are fluent in this book, because it changed my life. Because when I was younger and I was watching my parents, you know, my mom is a really famous Western medicine doctor.
Oh, wow.
And her specialty is diabetes.
Okay.
And my dad, and all they talk about at dinner table is case, like how to treat a patient, how can you like, and I realized like Chinese medicine is like, my mom doesn't have many ways, because at a certain point when things turn chronic, it's Chinese medicine that's going to improve people's life. And then Book of Changes, when my dad first gave it to me, probably prematurely, I was like 8 years old. I was like, what is this thing? I don't understand it at all. Over the years, I read the Chinese version, which is written in ancient Chinese, the English version, and back to the Chinese version and the English version. It humbles me. Ultimately, Chinese medicine is a profession where you have to be constantly learning. You have to be constantly learning from your patient. I love seeing patients because I think everyone's journey is unique, and that's a story that's worth telling. Everyone is worth telling your story. And I Ching is all about that. It's about you as a living person, your living mechanism. And my dad would always say in Chinese medicine, we treat the living. Chinese medicine is about studying a person who is alive. I study your symptoms. Western medicine, I love it also, but it's based on anatomy.
Right.
The person is already dead. That represents completely different approaches.
Wow.
So, and I Ching is all about that. And it humbles you. It constantly reminds you that you're passionate about this, and it's about keeping your curiosity and keep learning. So
I have to read that. That was moving. No, really. What do you want to leave the audience with? You said so much today.
Oh, God. I want everybody there, especially Black women, to believe in yourself. This is easy to say. It's almost cliched, right? In Chinese medicine, we so value the patient's perspective. If the patient says, I don't have this symptom, you cannot make it up and say like, oh yeah, but like, you know, whatever. Right. It's about a patient. It's about your subjective feeling in terms of your system, because you know your body better than anybody else. And anybody who say, oh, but that's just not correct, well, you clearly don't understand how actually data is collected. In health data, in economics, science, and social science, right? That's how we get data. We ask you, the patient, how you feel and your data because it's the most accurate. I can't make that data for you. So I want everyone to take a deep breath, think about your symptoms, and tell yourself, I'm going to find a practitioner that's worthy, that values me as me, and then I owe it to my body to treat these symptoms. Don't believe in people when they say, you don't have it, it's in your head. Oh, you think you have long COVID? No, it's actually, yours is antidepressant. Like everyone get antidepressants. Like the rates of people getting antidepressants since COVID is astonishing. And that's not what anyone deserves.
No.
So yeah, believe in yourself, you know. Even if when you feel you don't have the tools to help yourself, at least take a deep breath. Don't just follow any random like viral trends. Right. Even including my videos, like do your research,
right.
You know, listen around and trust yourself. That's important.
Trust yourself. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jameen.
No, it's such a pleasure, Miles.
Thank you.
Thank you.